Hello, and welcome to the 43rd episode of Chorus Place. I'm so glad you've chosen to join me for today's conversation. In today's episode, I'll be talking about my grandma's hugs, her voice, and how special they are to me. As always, if you like what you hear, please leave a review and/or comments, follow my podcast, and tell your friends. Also, please follow the podcast page I've made on Facebook. If you'd like to contact me via email instead of a Facebook message, you can email me at corachin@mailbox.org. If you are new here, welcome. I'm your host, Cora, and I'm so excited to have you on this journey with me. Today, I want to talk about my grandma's hugs, her voice, and what they mean to me. To be honest, it is so difficult to be able to adequately describe her hugs and voice in words because they are so incredible. There is at least one specific hug that immediately comes to mind that she gave me, and it meant the absolute world to me. I will get into that story here in just a minute. It was such a sweet hug and so very needed in that moment. I love any opportunity I get to hug her. Every time I hug her, it makes me feel so happy, safe, secure, loved, and relaxed. I'm not exactly sure what it is about her hugs, but they just make me feel better when I'm struggling and need someone to be there for me. In the time that I have grown closer to her, I have found that she is one of the people I feel safest with in my life, and one I can open up to about things a lot more. I mean, I have at least a couple of other people I feel safe with and can open up to, but I think it's different than my relationship with my grandma in some ways, because she and I can relate on some levels more than I might with others sometimes. Now, I want to talk about the hug I just mentioned a minute ago. That hug was in September of 2023. It was the morning I left Montana after visiting there for a little less than 2 weeks. That was an emotional morning for me because leaving Montana is always a hard thing for me. I had a hard time trying to hold back tears a couple of times that morning before leaving my grandparents' house. My grandma noticed, and she pulled me in for this hug that was really meaningful and actually really helpful. When she did that, it reminded me that I am safe with her, I can cry or have tears in front of her without fear of her judging me, and that she loves me regardless of what I'm feeling. I don't particularly like crying in front of people, but in those moments where she and I had that long embrace, it made me feel safe enough that I could cry in front of her and she wouldn't judge me for crying. On the car ride to the train station that morning, I also had some tears fall then too, but was eventually okay after a little while. Her hug in that moment before leaving their house that morning made me feel secure, loved, cared about, and safe. I am so thankful I have her in my life in moments like that. My relationship with her is something I never want to trade for anything that this earth could offer me. She is someone I have a deep amount of trust, respect, love, and care for. She makes me feel so happy. I am so thankful that God chose to make her my grandma. I may not always get to see her in person very much or for nearly long enough, but I love any moments we get to hang out and talk. Even just talking with her on the phone is nice too. Talking with her on the phone is not quite as good as in person conversations with her, but it's still better than nothing. To be honest, if I had to pick between in person conversations or phone conversations, I would probably pick in person conversations. I love spending quality time with people, especially loved ones or friends I don't see very often. Being able to spend time with people is something that is so vital to me and something that helps my mental health. Another thing that also helps me emotionally and mentally is having a routine for each week. What I mean by that is knowing what all I have going on throughout the week, whether it's church, a small group meeting, or just little things like that. If I don't have anything going on and I'm just at home all day every day for long periods of time and not seeing people outside my parents and siblings, I definitely notice the impact that it has on me emotionally and mentally. Earlier in this episode, I mentioned that her voice is also very meaningful to me as well. Sometimes, hearing her voice is what I need when I'm struggling. There have been many times where hearing her voice has been very encouraging to me in hard seasons. There are a couple moments in particular that stick out to me off the top of my head. The first one that I want to mention is that there was one day where I had something I needed to do, and once I got home from doing that, I was feeling very discouraged. My grandma and I had arranged ahead of time to talk that day once I had arrived home, regardless of how the errand had gone. For the first little while of that phone call, I was struggling to hold back tears because that errand did not go the way I had wanted it to or the way I had hoped. After that call with her, I was able to tell her how encouraging it was to be able to talk with her in those moments. I am so thankful that she and I were both able to take the time that day to talk in a moment where I was struggling a lot and needed someone to talk to. Having my grandma as a listening ear during struggles has been so helpful, encouraging, and sweet. She is one of my biggest supporters in my whole life. There was another time that I thought of right around when COVID started. I was feeling frustrated about something, and when I heard her voice on that Marco Polo, it just made all of my negative feelings just kind of melt, and it was so good. There are several times I can think of just off the top of my head where she has shown up for me and supported me. Even just a simple text or call from her as an encouragement means the world to me. A handful of the happy times where she has shown up for me and supported me that immediately come to mind are Awana award ceremonies when I was doing Awana, the 2 horse shows I did, taking me to horseback riding lessons, celebrating my birthdays, sometimes watching my swimming lessons, and my baptism. Having her to be there for me and supporting me in my life has been so incredible, and I think that my life would look very different without her. She has provided me with so much love, care, guidance, and wisdom, and so many sweet memories that I want to cherish forever. I would not be the person I am right now without her to love and support me. It truly makes such a significant impact on my life, and it helps me so much to know that I have her in my life to support me and love me unconditionally. Before I get to my final thing I want to say before I close this episode, I just want to say that it isn't just my grandma that has impacted my life in the ways I mentioned in this episode. My grandpa has also been a big supporter in my life too, and is also someone who is very special to me. I can't imagine my life without him either. They're honestly both absolutely amazing to have in my life. Both of them make my life better than I could have ever even possibly dreamed of. However, I also know that sometimes people may not always have a great relationship with their grandparents, or even other relatives. If that is a part of your story, I am so sorry about that. I can't imagine how hard that must be. I hope that you will someday be able to become closer to your grandparents or other relatives. In my opinion, family is supposed to be supportive, caring, and helpful, not distant or mean to each other. Unfortunately, however, that is reality for some people, where family can feel distant and not supportive. It's so sad to think that some people don't have the support of their own family, especially in hard moments. I mean, I know that families aren't perfect because of sin, but we need to work on being better about that. Now, to close out this episode, I want to share a super special message to my grandma. Grandma, if you're listening to this episode, I want you to know that I love you and miss you like crazy. I am always so excited whenever we get to talk, hang out, or just be together. You have been such a big part of some of my most valued memories that I have. You are such a blessing from God in my life, and I can't imagine my life without you. You truly make my life better. Thank you for always pointing me back to God and for always being by my side during hard moments. I wish I could give you a giant hug and tell you in person how much I love you. You make my life so much better than I could ever imagine. You are a very special blessing to me, and God gave me such a special blessing when He chose you to be my grandma. I don't know what I would do without you by my side to encourage me during hard moments. Thank you for all of the hugs, love, care, support, and prayers you have given me over the course of my life. They are so important and special to me. You have changed my life for the better, and I cannot imagine not having a close relationship with you. I am so glad we have such a close relationship, and I hope it continues forever. Our relationship has meant so much to me, and it has been better than I could have ever possibly imagined and asked God for. It makes me feel so happy to know that I have you on my side, willing to listen and to help me in the moments when I need someone to have my back. I want you to know that I also have your back too, and I always will. I love you so much. Thank you for being a shoulder to cry on and lean on when I am struggling, and I hope that I can always do the same for you. I am so thankful for our relationship, and I wouldn't want to change it for anything in the world. If someone tried to offer me $1,000,000 or something else that was really valuable as a trade for our relationship, I wouldn't take it because I would rather be close to you than have a lot of money or things like that. Our relationship is more important to me than being rich with a lot of money or with a lot of earthly possessions. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please follow, leave a comment and a review of my podcast if you haven't already, and please follow my podcast page on Facebook so you never miss an update. If you have any verses you'd like me to read on a future episode, or if you have any topics you'd like me to talk about, you can email me at corachin@mailbox.org, or you can send me a message on my podcast page on Facebook, which is linked in the show notes, and I will get back to you when I can. Hope you tune in next week for the 44th episode.